So, aloha, welcome. My name is Alex Leikermoser. I'm the founder of yogagurl, GURL.com, and I'm so excited to be here today on this sunny fall day and welcome our very special and passionate guest, Dr. Dana Colson. And we're going to just have our tea next to us, so I hope you'll join us, whether you're joining us live or later on, and have some fun with health and wellness. You know, how we can really bring more lightness and positivity into our wellness journey. And so Dr. Dana Colson is known in Toronto for, I'd like to say, definitely a pioneer in the field of holistic dentistry. She's been at this for quite a while, and we'll definitely hear about her journey today. And we're also going to hear some amazing information from her book titled Your Mouth, The Gateway to a Healthier You. And I wanted to also be, really fun and relaxed. So we're going to just, talk about things together, share with you what we think is important. And I should also mention she has been voted the top dentist in Toronto. That was in 2017 by Now Magazine. So she's definitely someone that if you haven't met her, you're going to get to meet her today. And I know that she'll be an amazing resource in your life, as she has been for me with her team. So I think that's it. We'll just kick it off and get it going. And those of you that are not familiar with me, this talk is part of a monthly series that I'm doing for my annual mentorship, which has just opened its doors now. And we're still welcoming people until November. So if that excites you, we hope you'll join us as well for more inspiration over the next 12 months. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Dr. Dana Colson. And I think we're going to start off with some talking a bit about empowerment, so let's see what inspired you to talk to us today.
Thanks very much, Alex. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm also very honored that everyone takes some time out of their life to be able to be here and join us. I think that Alex is incredibly brilliant to create a tea time. Education and Zoom ought to be fun, and it doesn't have to be all serious. So hopefully we can empower your lives a little bit this time. I just truly believe in education. The story that goes behind for me was that when I was in undergraduate school at university, I was figuring out what I wanted to do. And dentistry was not in my horizon. I thought that dentists were mean, sadistic people. And that's because I had my own fear of dentistry. And I was always just waiting for that dentist to tell me that I needed something. And honestly, if he had to do something with me, I figured I would have had an out-of-body experience. But even, in my early teens, I didn't even know what out-of-body was, but I just knew that I wouldn't be able to cope somehow, but I also knew I had to be very good and behave. So when my parents lived in Peterborough. I was going back for a weekend to study because I knew I'd be given food and a safe place to, without distraction, to study. So I happened to sit beside a schoolmate of mine whom I wasn't really totally attached to, but we had common history. And he said, well, what are you going to do after undergrad? And I said, well, what are you going to do? And he started telling me he was going to apply to dentistry. And I said, ooh, why would you do a thing like that? And he started telling me they had laughing gas and different types of toothbrushes. And I thought, you know what, I really just don't know anything about this. And maybe I ought to overcome my own fear. And if I overcome my own fear, I can help others. And so that was the journey. So I was accepted into dentistry. And the first day I got in, they gave us a paint scraper and all sorts of tools. And I had no idea what this was all about in our labs. And as everything unfolded, my first major lecture in restorative, which means fillings and things like that, working on teeth, they taught us, talked about silver mercury fillings. And me being totally naive, or maybe, I don't know what it was, but I was brave. I put up my hand and I said, isn't mercury supposed to be toxic? And this was like over 47 years ago. It's kind of a crazy time. They said, oh no, it's triple distilled and passes through the body. And so I just believed everything they told me, and I went through dentistry that way. But then, you know, your intuition never steers you wrong. And so I started exploring that when I got out of dentistry, because I received a postcard in the mail that said mercury is toxic. So I jumped on a plane and I went to hear Hal Huggins, who has now passed, but he was a very influential person for me to understand the mouth-body connection, even though I thought I knew everything there was to know. And, you know, one door closes and another door opens. And when another door opens, 10 more doors open, and our journey just never stops. So I realized that, you know, I needed to share my information with people who came to see me, so that I could give you the comfort of understanding and education that I never had in a dental office beyond sit in the chair, open your mouth, and be good. And so my whole practice is predicated on education, knowledge. And I really want my patients to have minimally invasive dentistry, very kind, with leading edge technologies such as lasers and digitization of scannings, etc. And just tying it into our responsibility of mouth-body connection is so, so important. Our awareness of what we do to ourselves that can be deleterious. And I want to keep people safe the 363 days they are not in my office, so that we can just be healthy with very minimal dentistry to be done, and preservation for a lifetime till 120 plus. So that's a big capsule of everything that I believe in. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Alex told, you know, has a copy of my book, and that's how it came to her attention, because we talked about the yoga-based approach between whole body wellness, intraoral, and longevity. And so we're going to kind of start reviewing some of that and talking about it and how it ties into Alex's world where it spoke to her.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dana. Thank you so much for telling us how you know, fell into, I'd like to say, because sometimes you're right, that's how it happens. I mean, that's probably many of you on the call in your own lifetime and journey, when you look back and connect the dots, you're like, wow, like, I didn't think I was going to do that. You know, same with me. I always say, yoga, I didn't choose yoga, it chose me. You know, I was an interior designer and I hit a lot of health challenges and burnout at 30, and that led me down this path of more holistic approach to living and health. So you never know what's ahead of you on your journey, and when we can stay open, and I love that you mentioned intuition, because I think it's so important, you know, to really tune into our heart. And our heart always knows, right? It's something that I always talk to in my, you know, classes is, you know, when we just take a deep breath, and maybe we can invite you to do that right now. If you haven't paused from your day and, you know, you've got your tea, just take a deep breath, you know, in through your nose and out through your nose. You can even close your eyes and just place your hand on your heart for a moment. And just drop in, you know, to this beautiful space that we have created here this morning. And I love that you mentioned empowerment and sort of positive belief systems as well. Could you just say a little bit about that? Because I think that's an important piece of health as well. And it's not always, you know, integrated into conversations. So what's your experience around that?
Right. So I think allopathic medicine is often like doctor heal me. And I believe that we have to take responsibility. And what I love about my clients that come to see me, and I say clients because we work together, we take responsibility for what happens when we're not in the dental office, like our foods, our grinding and clenching that we're going to talk about, our habits, our brushing, all of that. Like it's a collaborative. And when we can be collaborative, we can achieve so much more. It isn't about one person making it all right. And the way I can be really successful for my clients of needing fewer root canals, fewer extractions, fewer crowns, fewer deteriorations, like I celebrate that they're healthy, that they're well. And that gives me the greatest amount of joy. I get enough work from outside that I don't need to have to work on my clients from within. I want you to be safe and healthy and in a good place. So it's sort of, and Alex, you talked about breathing, big deep breaths and mouth breathing that we were going to talk about sooner or later. It was all about, that's not the best, and we can find ways through yoga to allow ourselves to breathe through our nose rather than our mouth in many different ways, and we can talk about it. But empowerment and positive thinking means that, yes, I can do it and I can achieve. And I truly believe everybody can.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so important. It's and I did mention earlier about having you as a resource, and I think of it as a team, like who's on your wellness team, who's in your who do you have as a resource that you can call on, at different times. And also I think health is sort of like, I liken it to financial planning. We're familiar with that, but we don't always, in my wellness own journey and in guiding others or coaching, whatever you want to call it, I realized that you need a vision and a plan, and you need a team that you can call on to support you. So I'm just so excited to meet you. And your book, you had me from, it's like they say in that movie, you had me from hello. You had me from like the cover of the book. They say never judge a book by the cover, but I definitely did. And what I loved, well, first of all, the title, Your Mouth, the Gateway to a Healthier You, but also the bottom part, the tagline that you wrote, a yoga-based approach to exploring the connections between oral health, whole body wellness, and longevity. So that's what we're gonna, I guess, talk about today a little more. And I know that we don't have, the whole day. So you're gonna try to highlight some of the aspects from the book. Also at the back of the book, I loved how you talked about, the mantra of the teeth and the bite. So maybe you can go over that as well. So love to hear a little bit more about some of the highlights in the book.
Sure. Let's start with lips together, teeth apart. That's a mantra, and tongue in place means behind your upper front teeth. So we know that when we grind and clench, we can create a lot of pressures and a lot of stress, and it can happen during the day or the night. And when you think about nighttime, a lot of people, we're just not aware. It's just one of those things that we do subconsciously. It's like Canadians saying "a" at the end of the sentence. We don't even realize we do it till someone brings it to our attention. But when you consider, Alex, at night, we have no idea if we have a good dream, bad dream. We have no idea if we snore or we don't snore unless we use an app to track ourselves. And we don't have any idea if we're grinding or clenching, unless, of course, we wake up in the morning with headaches. And I know that if people get tension headaches, that they're grinding and clenching. And, one of the things that we can just do interactively right now is if you put your fingers here and clench your teeth, you will feel that a muscle pops out. And if you put your fingers here, you'll also feel a muscle pop out. Now, my belief is that we should not allow those muscles to pop out because if at night we do grind and clench our teeth, the muscles are doing this all the time. And if they do this all the time, they close up the blood vessels. And if they close up the blood vessels, they close up the blood flow. They close up the blood flow, you get the headache right here. So if you wake up in the morning and you have headaches, it's because you're grinding and clenching. It's a direct correlation. And there are ways that we can prevent that from happening with a night guard, a bite plate, or realigning teeth. And that's like really, really important because we have no control of nighttime wear. But during the day, a lot of people are becoming very aware that they do clench their teeth during the day, and they have no idea until we begin to have that conversation. And when they do, they're creating a lot of excess stress on their teeth. It's possibility for fractures of the teeth. It's possibility for gum recession because If you have a force on your tooth like this and you're continually pounding the tooth, you can see there's a vibration here. And if this is where your gum tissue sits and it's continuing getting vibrated, what's the gum tissue going to do? It's going to walk away. And so we don't need to have force on our teeth. We just need to be relaxed and loose. I mean, Alex, when you treat your yoga, it's all about relaxation, expansion, and just allowing everything to have space. And in our mouth, there's no reason why our teeth should ever have to touch.
I find that,
so I just,
yeah, a lot of
go
people
ahead.
realize that they're, you know, that they are grinding their teeth at night or clenching during the day. You know, sometimes when they do come to class and I do some stretches and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much I was holding, you know, there. And so how do you think people, so one of the signs you said are headaches. How else could they know that they're actually doing this? You know, I guess you would know by the way their teeth are when you see them, but again, we want to, you know, people to be proactive and discover some of these things before it's too late. Like, you know, before you break a tooth or something from wear and tear, or something like that. So what are some of the things they could do to be proactive?
Well, we can just even check our muscles, like right here, you clench your teeth, you feel a muscle and you massage it. And if that's tender, then you know, oh, I have an overdeveloped muscle that really only gets exercised if my teeth are touching. And when I say teeth are touching, Alex, I mean ever. Teeth should never fully touch. So I make this analogy about vertebrae. If you had two vertebrae touching, would you be in pain? And people will say yes, because we're all smart enough to know that we're compressing our blood vessels and our nerves. And back pain, of course, is so debilitating. But God made teeth stronger than bone so that we could chew our food, but never to do this. So it's always lips together, teeth apart. And when you think about it, you might say to me, and legitimately so, because I said to myself a lot before I figured out the answer, well, my teeth touch when I chew my food, right? And so, well, they do and they don't, because you see, here's your top teeth, here's your bottom teeth, and in comes the food. Munch, 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 swallow. So what happens? The teeth will glance off each other, but they cannot fully do this because you always have food and you swallow. So when you think about it, the teeth should never, ever, ever touch. And yes, a lot of people will have sensitivity around their gum lines to cold or sweet. That's a sign of perhaps grinding, clenching a lot of force because the gum tissue has moved away. Or heavy loading pressures can often be a sign of it. You can also have sign of just the soreness in the jaw. When you wake up in the morning, your jaw just feels a little tight, a little sore, or people will feel that their jaw might be cracking in the morning. And that's because of all the compressive forces in this jaw joint. But really the jaw should be hanging loose. So if the teeth aren't touching, the jawbone has a lot of room in that jaw joint to be able to work on. And if you force it, you can actually push away the cartilage, which creates the clicking, the cracking, what we call crepitus, or even locking of the jaw joint.
There was a few places in the book that, yeah, I loved. So this mantra, when you will get a chance to read this if you haven't read the book, but lips together, teeth apart, tongue in place. It is in the book and she does guide you through it in case you didn't quite get that today. But there was a few other things that you, maybe you, I don't know, you wanted to talk about some of the breathing or alignment, or, because I think that's important as well.
Continue on. In the book, I talk about the exercises that you can do called up, out, down, back, you know, just feeling this muscle, doing what we call isometric exercises, the way you would do for strength and tension, and also bringing your jaw down and forward. And you can also check, as a matter of fact, Lisa, Alex, you brought this up to my mind, was just about your tongue. Often if we grind and clench and we're not aware, if you look at your tongue, you might feel little scallop lines. And in my book, there's 5 diagrams, and one of them is of the scallop tongue. It's like lying on a couch, a corduroy couch, and you wake up, or after a period of time, you'll actually have lines on your cheek. Well, the tongue also demonstrates to us that there is grinding and clenching. So all these exercises, you know, we can talk about it verbally, you can read about it, but I've also created a video, and it's on my website under allsmiles.ca or under YouTube with my name called Facial Exercises, 3 minutes or less. And you can just watch that and go through it. And in our office, we demonstrate it and we spend time with you, making sure you're doing it correctly. But if you're not with me, then just go in and learn it yourself. You'll be able to achieve it really well. But it's a practice of awareness. Like, we always have to check, because sometimes we just aren't aware. Alex, it's just like your yoga exercises. Just because you do it once doesn't mean it's done forever, right? Because life happens and we always want to be optimized and fine-tuned. So grinding, clenching is a big deal. And we always want to make sure that you're not doing that, or that the teeth are in a position that aren't creating a lot of heavy pressures. So in my office, we have a digitized scanner, and it is phenomenal. I always thought that pictures spoke a million words, is worth a million words, but actually the scanner is even more so. And because we all live in this digital world, we can understand it so much easier, and we can see things because we can swirl your image of your mouth inside out, backwards, and put colorings and markings to see where the pressures are, because sometimes it's out of your control. And we just want to keep everybody safe. And it isn't that you have to do a lot. There's always options. So I always like people to have options. It's like when, Alex, you do your yoga classes, just because you do a posture doesn't mean everybody has to do it perfectly or the right way. You know, we all have different stages and opportunities of when we can engage in what works best for us.
And different times in our life, different things are required, like, and different things come up. Like, for example, that's actually what drew me to your office. So during the pandemic, I had a tooth injury, and, the trauma caused a lot of pain. And so I started to really educate myself because I had to. It's funny how human nature like that, right? And so I think sometimes we wait until it's like the 11th hour. And part of why I did this call today is because I feel like if you have this information and you can do the preventative work, work with someone, either Dr. Dana Colson or someone like her, that's going to really be your guide and see and give you a feedback. Like, I loved that actually when I came to your office and we did the three, what do you call it? The 360 or panorama, I guess, panorama view camera. And I got to see my whole teeth. I had never seen that before. And I am very visual, and it really also helped me to, I think, take more responsibility and be inspired to take care of my teeth and health. So I think sometimes technology can really work as a powerful tool. And so I love that you have incorporated technology as well into, your practice. And I think, it's just, that's something I wanted to mention. And also, like, different, like, for me also right now, I'm going through a lot of stress. So when I was younger and I was under a lot of stress, I used to clench and bite. And I thought, oh, I'm done with that. Well, guess what? In the last few weeks, my parents are moving out west, and I've been under a lot of pressure. And I noticed that I've been, a little bit of that grinding of the teeth has come back. So again, I think different times in our life, some of these old patterns of health can return. So it's really important to be proactive and to, be aware that it could happen, again. And
yeah. So you bring up the concept of that recurring grinding, clenching. And I think sometimes at night we grind and clench to try to find our best bite. But sometimes our bite isn't our best bite, because what I've discovered through my ongoing education, and I usually do about 4 to 6 weeks a year of it, our lower jaw, if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be able to live. And our lower jaw allows us to be able to walk a straight line. So we know where to place our lower jaw to be able to have proper balance. But if our teeth are in a different position than where our jaw wants to be, every time you close your teeth in a different position, you're actually going to be weaker. And so I demonstrate this with my patients who come in because I want them to be aware that maybe grinding, clenching during the day isn't going to give you your best strength. It isn't going to allow you to achieve the postures that Alex, you are asking your students to have. And yet we're always taught, like, if you grind and clench, you're going to be stronger. So when I show it to kids especially, I say, don't grind and clench when you're doing that thumb wrestle, or tell your dad to grind and clench you, and you might be able to beat him at it, because our whole body structure, we need to be level, 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 level. And that's what you teach in your yoga. And we all know that we're supposed to stand up straight, right? But sometimes when we grind and clench, or we have our teeth together in a position, it isn't the ideal position for all of us. And in which case, we have to be even more diligent to not allow our teeth to touch ever, because it doesn't help us. So it's a whole kind of structural awareness that I show and I teach and I integrate within my practice. I've learned it through a series of continuing education through what we call neuromuscular dentistry and also chirodontics. So it's always fascinating for me, and I'm always like just shocked and so pleasantly surprised that when I finish working with my patients, if we're doing like Invisalign or like orthodontic movement or reworking the bite, that when I finish, that they can be totally strong with their teeth apart and their teeth together rather than being weak. So it's to me, it's like a big picture rather than just working here. And it always humbles me that the difference of like 1/20,000th of an inch or 20 microns or 1/50,000th of an inch can make all the difference. It's the thickness of a human hair. That's what we can detect in our mouth. And for me, bites is like everything. So I love people to have a great, broad, wide smile, and that's why I always aim for. But that's the byproduct of having a healthy, functional bite. And for me, it's all about health and wellness and function first. And then when that happens, it's like feng shui, the beautiful smile emerges. So it's all part and parcel. But to do a quick fix on the front part of the teeth, I feel like, oh, I'm shortchanging you. I can't do that. I want you to have it all, because I want that whatever I'm going to do on the front to last you until you're 120 with very, very few problems.
I love that. I love that the way you've shared that with us, because I think that often we go for the, what is it in the Matrix, that you want this pill or this pill, right? And we think that we can have this quick fix, or that something that's just going to change the exterior, and something, more holistic approach like yoga, or what you're talking about, a holistic approach to our mouth and teeth and dentistry, means we're going to look at the whole picture, not just, that exterior, oh, my teeth look good, my smile looks good, therefore I'm healthy. There's so many layers and complex layers to the neck, as you were saying, the shoulders. Like I see a lot of tension. People come to class, especially in the upper body, and then that's going to impact your whole jaw and your teeth. And, and then the feet are supporting the stacking of the vertebrae all the way up to the top of the head. So it's really this complete, overall picture of our health that I think ideally we want to be working on, not just one little, outside piece. And so I really love how you integrated that for us. So thank you.
Thanks, Alex. You brought up a point to me, and I was just so excited to be able to come online and to be able to talk with you, because collaboration always makes us better. And so I love even collaborating with my assistants, my team. Like, it's just not me; it's all of us, and that includes our clients that we see at chairside. But you mentioned about the feet. So we know that if we have one leg longer than the other, we might need an orthotic, or we need to work on that concept, because we call that an ascending problem. But our mouth is also a descending problem. And so it's important that everything is balanced. And that's my responsibility at my end, to be able to help everything be 100% balanced. And so that leads me into the conversation as we were talking about that big, deep breath. Breathing is so important. We know that it's important. And we also, there's so much coming out, like James Nestor has written a book about breathe. And we're all aware that we have to breathe through our nose, not our mouth. Because when we breathe through our mouth, and you just consider it right now as a little exercise, if you just have your mouth open just notice what happens to your head. It kind of drops down a little bit. And then you always are aware that your eyes need to look at the horizon. So then you shift your head forward a little bit and you alter your head posture, not in a straight position, but a down forward position. And so if you're breathing through your mouth all the time, you're going to create a big postural issue. And then it has the neck problems, the back problems. Like, you can't win at this. And you're breathing because you need the oxygen. That's our life force, right? Airway is everything, airway, breathing, and circulation. So we need to know that we can breathe through our nose, not our mouth. And sometimes that's just very difficult depending on tooth posture. And sometimes it's muscular and tongue posture and airway and sinuses. It's a big, big conversation. But in dentistry, we can begin to affect a lot of changes. And I have patients who have very high palates where the tongue can't sit up comfortably behind the front of their teeth. And so therefore it drops down. And when it drops down, it creates a mouth breathing because you need the oxygen. And that also promotes snoring at night and lack of oxygen. And when we breathe through our mouth, guess what happens? We only get 80% oxygen, not 100% oxygen. And then in our our sinus, we have these little coils called turbinates, and they filter the air just like it would be a furnace filtering air. And that promotes what we call nitric oxide. And I'm sure that's become a big buzzword these days, but nitric oxide helps prevent bacteria and viral infiltrations. Nitric oxide is a precursor for healthy cells, and we need it for us. But if we breathe through their mouth, we never get it. So it's all about health and wellness, and our mouth plays a huge part when we start to expand a palate through moving the teeth, because we all work as an integrated component. Then what happens? It affects 40 other cranial sutures in our body, in our head and bones. And so there's always one action creates another reaction. And Alex, that's what you teach, right? The posture, the feet, the breathing, the awareness, expansion. Like, how can the mouth not be a significant part of yoga?
So true. And I think you touched on an important piece too, sleep. Like, so I always, when my students are dealing with headaches or sleep issues or certain things, often we try to have a quick fix, and mask it, but we're not going to the root cause of, well, what is actually causing this sleep disturbance? And often, people don't even realize that they may be suffering from, sleep apnea or snoring, and it's causing them to not be able to get that uninterrupted sleep and go into the deeper REM. And so, yeah, usually we don't think of like, this could be something to do with my teeth or my mouth. And so, I really loved how you made that connection in the book as well, because it's not something that's often talked about and often overlooked, I want to say as well. So, yeah, really.
Yes, it is mainstream. I tell people, sleep is more important than diet and exercise, because if we don't have sleep, our body can't reset. And people who have sleep problems can actually, like apnea, and there's very easy tests, just questionnaires that you can fill out. You can get them probably online. It's Epworth Sleep Study or Stop Bang. It will bring you to the awareness. And even for your children, it's very, very important for their learning development. And awareness and happiness and not having fatigue and growth and development, it's huge. But for adults who have sleep apnea, it can actually take off 8 years of your life if you don't get proper oxygen. So we take this very seriously, and we're collaborative. We work with other people to create this outcome. So Alex, I know that you and I want to talk a little bit about the foods we eat and your area of work with the clients that you work with. And so why don't you start off?
Well, I think, there's so many great quotes about, great abs are made in the kitchen, or, and I think often people overlook food and nourishment as an important component of health. They're like, oh, well, I'm going for a walk, I'm working out, I'm, I'm drinking water or whatever. But food is just such an important piece of it. You mentioned sleep is important, yes, but food I think is up there in the top three. I would say. I don't know if you agree with that, but yeah. So I wanted to touch on that because you mentioned it in the book, and that's something I discovered on my own journey, and that I weave into my teachings as well. So. Obviously whole foods, plant-based foods, not foods that are not, modified, and all of the, I want to say, like, anything in a can or a bag is going to have additives and preservatives. So, think going back to our relatives and how they ate, growing your own food and really getting the most nourishment possible from your food. So maybe, yeah, you could share a bit on that, and then I'll invite them to something that I'm working on at this time.
Okay. Well, we're both on the same page, even though we've never talked about it. So I just want to bring to awareness that almonds are the hardest nut to eat, and it can actually crack teeth. So please, please, please buy slivered almonds or soak your almonds. The cashews, pecans, walnuts, macadamia nuts, they're fine. Don't worry about them. Chewing ice, very dangerous. Don't do that. It's very important to me that you don't eat dehydrated foods, such as raisins, currants, goji berries, dates, figs, prunes. All of those, they're delicious, and we think they're healthy. And the mangoes, dehydrated apple slices, like, I love them all. But I won't eat them because I know what happens is that they are sticky foods, and that's why we love them so much, because they're so concentrated with flavors. But they lodge between our teeth. And sometimes when we get older, we get dry mouth from some different autoimmune diseases or aging, and we can't wash it out. And they hide in these little crevices. Even for children, it does. And parents, crunchy granolas come to see me, and then we say, your child has cavities, and they get so angry because they're trying to do everything white. They're not white bread people, and they don't give their child that, but they eat all this, quote, healthy food, but it's dehydrated. And it's so much concentrated sugar that the bacteria in our mouth don't know the difference if it's honey, agave, or just granulated white sugar. And so the bacteria eats all the sugar, and it starts creating acid, and that starts demineralizing our enamel and causing cavities. And before you know it, you get a multitude of cavities. So when I see people who come in with 2 or 3 cavities, like, let's stop the clock. Let's figure out, why did you have this? I never want to see this in your mouth again. There's no reason. And even protein bars and the health food bars, like, no, don't do it. I know that they're delicious. They're easy on the go, and you feel you're looking after yourself, but it's not helping your teeth. So please have whole foods. As Alex, you just said, not packaged, not canned. Get the real peach, get the real plum, get the real apple, get the pears, get the grapes. Those are real foods, and those are what we need to be able to eat, and our teeth will stay healthy. You don't have to worry a lot about brushing after every meal if you have healthy foods and whole foods, but none of the concentrated sugars. So just to end on a more positive note about this is that I feel that, or I like to tell people, I have good news for you. Dark chocolate is a yes. If you have over 70% dark chocolate, it's full of fats, and actually it negates cavities a little bit. And also old cheddar cheese is good. And even if you at the end have like a celery stick or a carrot stick, those are all good too, because they're cleansing your teeth. Or an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It was more for the dentist than the doctor, right? And for kids, always make sure that they have the apple or the celery stick or the carrot stick at the end of their meal, and not to have their dessert, like the cookie that you pack in sandwiches, or even for ourselves at the end, because the saliva slows down and all that stickiness stays behind, and that causes the cavities.
I think that's brilliant. I loved when I read that in your book about having the dark chocolate at the end, especially if you don't have time to brush or rinse. and it makes so much sense. And you know, we kind of intuitively do some of these things, but we don't know why. And I really love that you distinguished as well, you know, between some of these healthy snack foods that we think, oh well, you know, dried fruit, it's good for me, granola bars. But what we're not realizing is, as you say, these things are becoming, you know, stuck in our teeth, sitting there for hours. And you know, the bacteria is just, yeah, feeding on that. So I really thought that was huge. And I loved that you're an advocate for dark chocolate. So um, and I think it also ties in, you mentioned something about acidity, right? So the alkalinity is really what we're going for as well.
Yeah. So that's just another really important thing for me is that we do check saliva pH for our new patients who come in, and you can get your own little strips at home and you can measure it and, you know, do the measurements in the 0.2 increments, not 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but 5.2, 5.4, all the way up to about 8 or 9. And there'll be colors and you can just quickly identify. But what was really interesting for me is that in my days in the office before COVID, we always offered organic carrot juice, ginger and celery, because it's a healthy drink, and also hot ginger tea. And so unfortunately, because of COVID, we can't do these things anymore, but the hot ginger tea I absolutely loved. And the reason why is because if you were to put a pH strip in ginger tea, like with a little bit of lemon and a minute amount of brown sugar, you would find that the reading with the litmus paper would be very, very acidic. And you would measure your mouth and it would be whatever the number was. But when you drank it, all of a sudden you become alkaline. So we're talking about the combination. It's the chemistry that's really important. And lemon juice and ginger are like that kind of concept is phenomenal for your teeth. But I just want to share one more thing. A lot of people do the lemon juice in the morning when they wake up, and I'm all for it, except you have to brush your teeth before, because the lemon juice, although it alkalizes your mouth, it actually, when you brush, you'll brush the acid into your tooth and cause tooth erosion. So please, please, please brush your teeth and then drink as much lemon water that you would like. And and if you can't, you know, then just drink a lot of water afterwards, because it's all about getting it into our system.
Thanks for really distinguishing that. Again, these are just like little tips that, you know, we can be thinking we're doing really good things for our health. And then, so I loved how you wove some of that into your book as well. And I'm a big fan of morning rituals. In fact, I've written a book. It's going to be coming out end of November. And it's about your morning rituals. And obviously I joke about it in the book, but I say, everybody here brushes their teeth, right? It's something that we already do. And so it's a wonderful place to build on your morning rituals and habits. So I do talk about lemon juice and adding that. And so I'll make sure that I mention this sequence as well is really important. And I think that there's a real opportunity right now. You know, we're being called at this time on the planet, you know, to really wake up, as you said at the beginning, to empower ourselves to our health and really go to the next level. You know, so this call for me today was about inviting people to come and hopefully inspire each other by being on the call here. You see other like-minded people, you know, that are also interested in, you know, learning and going to the next level of their health, whatever that might be, because I might have a different challenge right now than you. And so it's about finding your own formula on your own journey of what's this really is, you know, what's the next step for you. So I think if there's anything else you'd like to, you know, finish and share, and then we're going to open up for some Q&A. So
Yeah, thanks. It's perfect. So one of the things that I say is, Alex, in the morning when you brush your teeth, you really don't spend 2 minutes, but be very mindful of it. And I love rotary brushes because they do a lot more for us. But the rotary brush isn't to brush the way we used to brush. It's to hold the brush and let the brush do our work for us. So it's a meditative process for me. It's when you start brushing your teeth, don't think about 50,000 things. Just pay attention for 2 minutes in a meditation of awareness of what you're doing and how you're doing and how you're placing that brush, and have a system to do it. effectively, because the bad bacteria takes 24 hours to develop. So if we can brush our teeth effectively for 2 minutes, we're going to have a phenomenal sense of well-being and no bleeding gums, which is very important. We haven't even talked about that, but that actually affects Alzheimer's and all sorts of cardiac and lung issues and everything else. And I share a story on one of the videos that I did through COVID for healthcare practitioners, 454 healthcare practitioners, about Invisalign. But the first half an hour, 45 minutes, I talk about Alzheimer's and the connection and my own personal story of how I learned about, can teeth be silent killers? So please educate yourself about it. I'm very passionate about it because it's a story about me and my parents. And I was so proud that I was keeping their teeth, but I realized that I didn't have the technology 20 years ago to be able to set them up for a really successful long time. When you get into your 90s, you're fragile and so many things can happen. So meditation is important. Lips together, teeth apart. Focus when you pay attention to your teeth. Focus about what you put into your mouth and the sequence and order that you do it. And you guys are all amazing for being here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This is what I love more than anything else is to share my knowledge so that everybody can have a healthier and easier lifestyle. And it doesn't have to be complicated. That's my bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for demystifying for us. And, really, I think you really highlighted some important components today that now people can go off and, if they haven't already read your book, read your book and really integrate this more into their wellness, what I say, your daily rituals, right? And I loved that you suggested during brushing your teeth, because we're so used to multitasking, and it's true, those 2 minutes, that's your opportunity that could be your morning mindfulness practice, right? And that's a beautiful way to start and connect your teeth. And as you say, the rotary brush, people think they have to brush the old way. I actually have a practice now where I do a bit of many things. Like I use the rotary brush, but I also do the manual brush for my gums because I find it feels really good. I feel like the circulation, I can feel it in my mouth and gums. So yeah, I'm not sure if you touch on that, a practice in your book, but you mentioned a couple things, just now that I thought were really important. So I think we're going to open it up now for questions. So thank you for closing that off for us. I guess what I was going to add is that the morning ritual is really key. And so don't feel like you have to change everything right now. Just add in a couple of new things that you heard today from Dr. Dana Colson. Incorporate maybe one thing that really stood out for you would be a good start. And we'll open it up for questions. So if you want to put anything into the chat, and then we have a couple of gifts to share with you for being on the call today. And I'll share that with you shortly. So you can either unmute yourself if you're comfortable on the video, or you could post something into the chat. Anyone have anything and there's no silly or bad question, honestly. There may be someone else here that's thinking the same thing. Yes, go ahead. Far ahead.
I have a few questions, but I'll ask them and then you could answer any of them that you want. One of them was, typically the way to brush is to buy a commercial toothpaste and then brush your teeth. But is there any more holistic way of using a paste? Like, are the commercial toothpaste okay to use, or do they have to have this specific characteristics? This is one. And the other one was, question was, the breath odor, is it coming from the mouth or from your inside of your guts? And is there an indication of that there is something wrong if you have breath odor? And the last question was about Invisalign that you mentioned. Is there any age that beyond which the Invisalign will not work anymore in terms of, I understand that having a straight teeth is not just cosmetically, but it's probably healthier to have. And so is there age restriction as when you should, up to what age can you do that? So those are my questions, but you don't have to answer all of them. You could answer any of them.
Those are great. I think those are great. And I think a lot of people here would relate to those. So do you want to start by answering the first one?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Farad. They are fantastic questions. So for toothpaste, I'm a strong advocate that if you use a rotary brush, you really don't even have to use a toothpaste because it's all mechanical. If you do want to use something, you can do a mixture of salt and water, salt and baking soda. You can use, you know, the commercial toothpaste, read the ingredients. That tells you, you know, just like you read the ingredients for food, it's the same thing. One of my favorite toothpaste that we have at the dental office, and now they actually sell it at Shoppers Drug Mart, is through a company called Oral Science, and it's called Remin, and it has 4 ingredients. So having 4 ingredients means that really we're not having a lot of chemicals in our mouth, no sodium lauryl sulfate, and you know, we haven't even talked about fluoride, but I think we have enough fluoride in our water that if we have good hygiene, we don't need to have fluoride. Fluoride, there's a book called The Aging Factor, and you know, you can research it and make your own decision, but we don't do fluoride treatments in my practice, and I haven't for like 20, 30 years. I lose track of time. And also please be aware of whitening toothpaste. A lot of people, you know, you just get so drawn into it because we always want white teeth, but actually they're incredibly abrasive and they can remove enamel. So there's other ways to whiten your teeth, very simple and kind, but or through your dental practice where it won't abrade your tooth structure. As far as breath odor goes, 70% comes from our back of our throat and our sinus, and a lot of it is lodges on the tongue. So just even getting a tongue scraper is phenomenal to help eliminate breath odor. It isn't necessarily a sinus sickness. It just it's something though that doesn't make us feel comfortable in society, right? And so it's important to kind of figure out how we can control it. There are some toothpaste out in the, or mouth rinses out in the market that has chlorine dioxide, it's called, and there's a couple of them that are available through OxyFresh, and there's another one that is, I believe, sold commercially. The name escapes me right now, but it actually breaks the sulfur compounds that causes the breath odor. But most of it comes from this area here. So you can control it, obviously the sinus and neti pot or other, you know, putting solutions into the nose is also helpful. But I would start with the simple and easiest one first. Get a tongue scraper or just use a spoon and just scrape your tongue. And you can get off a lot of bacteria that lingers on our tongue that promotes that bad breath odor. Because of the postnasal drip, it goes at the back of our tongue. And then the third question you have is about the age requirement for Invisalign or moving teeth. If we're living and we're breathing, we can do anything. There is no limitation. I do need to share with you though that working with young children, teenagers, obviously the bone is more subtle and more changed because there is less history of where those teeth have been sitting, and nothing is quite as strong and brittle or tough as the bone is when we get to be, you know, 70, 80, but I have done Invisalign for people of that age and it's worked really well. And if you're living, you're breathing, you have the opportunity to do anything you want.
Thank you very much.
Great.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. And are you an advocate, or is it okay? Because I make my own toothpaste with coconut oil, and I've been experimenting with different recipes, and I find those work quite well. Yeah. Okay, great. And essential oils as well are fine as long as they're diluted. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, they're all natural. Do what feels good for you. A lot of people love doing oil pulling. It's fine. It's great. Just don't give up those 2 minutes. That's the most important thing. And then add whatever else you want. And remember to floss and being able to have a good floss technique. And, you know, check in with your hygienist. Just let me show you how I floss. Give me a few tips. It's a very, it's a skill. And most of us, even in dentistry, we think that people know how to floss, but I keep on saying to my hygienist, get our clients to show us what they do, and then let's help them get a little bit further along the way.
So true.
And good. Those are fantastic. There's a lot of aids, but your hygienist will help you get to that next level, and they'll reinforce the good things, and they'll share with you the little tricks that you need depending on the geography of what's happening in your own mouth.
That's great. No, I love that, because I think when we have that beginner's mind, that curiosity of a wonder of a child, and we're like, okay, show me how I can make my flossing even better. Show me how I can make my, brushing my teeth even better, because that's ultimately what we want. When we come in with that know-it-all attitude, then we can't, the ego doesn't allow us to fine-tune what we're already doing. And as you say, we're already doing it. We might as well do it properly and have better results than just go through the motions and say, oh, I brushed my teeth. That's what I'm discovering is, and I'm a health advocate, and I thought I was doing really well. And I'm learning all these little nuances, in your book and from your team. And I'm like, wow, like it just like that little thing, could make all the difference, right? Like how you're flossing or how you're, So I definitely invite, go ahead. What were you
It's like your yoga tips, right? That one little thing can shift everything for a person.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have time for one more question. Is there anyone else that would like to ask something? Oh, we have a question here on gum recession. How do I balance effectively brushing to get plaque off versus being gentle enough that I don't affect my gums?
Great. So you need to work with a very soft brush and be mindful of where you place the brush. You're not brushing your gums, you're brushing the junction between the tooth and the gum. And you just want to squiggle it ever so lightly to be able to bring that bacteria up. And you won't do damage. So in our practice, I don't know if you've received one yet, Alex, or not, but we give out these Curoproxes. They're premium brushes. They're made in Switzerland. They have like 5,460 bristles. I don't even know if I have the exact number right, but compared to 500 to 50 to 100 bristles for the average brush. But it's so soft, but there's so many bristles, it can just go do the work. All you have to do, apply, gentle, and then just brush up on the bottom and on the top, angle it and brush down, and the job will be done. So just remember, soft brushing. Don't be afraid, but just be gentle and mindful.
I love that. And I think also what I'm learning is that there are different tools that do different jobs. So I do have a proxy brush. I had it before I met you. And what I'm finding is, like the different tools affect, one is for my gum, one is flossing the teeth. The rotary brush does the fronts of the teeth. The regular brush, I do my gums. So it's like understanding what these tools are meant for that you want to incorporate into your morning routine. And depending on what your current challenge is, you might want to look into a specific tool for that. So yeah, I think that's great. All right, so I want to thank everyone. Any last, just to see if there's anyone who really, really has anything else. Otherwise, we're going to say thank you. All right, pretty good. 101. We stayed on track. So I want to thank you all for taking the time. I know that, that I always say in yoga, the most precious thing we have is our time. So thank you for making the time for your health, for yourself, showing up. And I hope that you've been inspired to, do something new with your health and wellness. And then I hope you also share this, inspire others from what you've learned today. That's the beauty of education. We can pass it on, we can share it with others. This will be recorded, so you can also share the recording. And as a little thank you, we're both going to gift you with a gift. So Dr. Dana Colson is gifting each of you, if you don't already have one, a copy ebook of her book. And the way to get that is if you would like to join me, and you don't have to, but you go to my website at yogagurl.com, click to the online studio, sign up there. There is a free 8-day, I'm calling it my Rainbow Reset Journey. This is something that I discovered in Hawaii is that when I would do a 7 or 8 day, I don't want to call it a cleanse, because really it's just a journey of eating more whole-based plants and vegetables for 8 days. So the first day we eat the red color of the rainbow, and we work with the root chakra. We do 1 yoga pose and affirmation, and we eat as much red fruits and veggies as you can, preferably veggies. So you've got beets, you've got all kinds of things to choose from. And it's a guided, self-guided journey, so you can do it with your family at home, and you get it through this online platform. It's a course that I've developed, and I'm gifting that to everyone on the call today. So I hope you'll participate. It starts Monday, and you'll also get a copy of Dr. Dana's book. So hope to see you there. And otherwise, please, stay in touch, and hopefully we'll get to meet you in person in the future. So thank you all. Namaste, and have a beautiful rest of the day.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Dana Colson. Blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. It's awesome.
Thank
to be with
you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can unmute yourself and say goodbye if you'd like. Bye, everyone. Aloha.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks.
Thanks, Dana.